Now we're finally going to take a deep dive on those mysterious constructors. So constructors, we've already discussed this, is an object builder. This is a special method used to initialize, create instances of the class, right? Create objects of the class. Remember, instances, objects, synonyms. So constructors use the same name as the class for their declaration. And then they automatically, when an object is created, they're going to be called on. So when you use that new keyword, it's basically telling the class, hey, I need you to call the constructor so I can make a new object. So they're used to set initial values for the object's attributes. So if you don't have defaults, you can actually do this through the constructor. And then you could also provide parameters for the constructor where you can modify those starting values. So constructor is really, really handy. Let's go ahead and take a look at some examples, some syntax, etc. So the syntax is similar to declaring regular methods. So you do have the access modifier, right? It's almost always public, right? If you want to give your other classes access to build, objects in that class. If you make it private, then no one else, right, can use that class. So almost always public. And then it does often have parameters. So these are used to set the attributes of the object. Some things that are different is that constructors don't have a return type, not even void. Because they're special, right? We don't actually have to indicate the return type. Java already knows that, hey, the only job of the constructor is to build new objects. We shouldn't be worrying about, return values or anything like that. So the constructor's name must always match the class name. So notice it's capitalized. Method names are not capitalized, right? They follow the camel case. So default constructors, this is usually the first constructor you define in your class. So step one is attributes, right? You write these down first. And then the next step is naturally to make a default constructor. So default constructor just has no parameters and it's used to create a default object, an object with default values. If you don't actually provide a default constructor, if you don't write one down, Java will actually make one for you. So it is important that you make your own, right, so that you can control the behavior of new objects. So all new objects will call the default constructor by default. We'll talk about other constructors in the next slides. So yeah, this is usually the first constructor you define in your class to set up the default way of creating new objects slash instances of the class. Let's say you want to actually provide some parameters for that constructor. You want to actually give people the ability to set the initial values. You want to give someone the chance to set the make and the mileage. Remember, make is another word for brand for a car. So you can use a parameterized constructor. So this one will actually take arguments. That's the only difference. So this one, no arguments. Parameterize has arguments, just like here. So this will allow you to set the initial values. Those parameters are usually used to set the object's attributes. So why would you use these types of constructors? Well, you want to set some custom starting values for a new object. You don't want to do extra steps, right, by calling the setters. You could do that all at the beginning with a parameterized constructor. So for example, here, if I wanted to change the make and the mileage, I'd have to go and call my setter, right? Set make, set mileage. So that's extra code. But if I use a parameterized constructor, I can do that all in one chunk of code here. And here you can see me actually using that constructor. New car Toyota 20,000. So this is going to set the make to Toyota and the miles to 20,000. So yeah, in the example, the parameter names are different from the attribute names. So here we have car make, and then we have make, we have car mileage, and we have mileage. Um, it turns out that we actually usually give the parameters and the attributes the same name. Now this can get confusing, so we have a special keyword to avoid confusion. Again here, right, the example of you have a parameterized constructor so that you can initially, set custom values for those attributes. And here's how you would call it, new, then the constructor. If you want the default, you just leave out the arguments here. No arguments, you'll call it default constructor. All right, so the this keyword in Java, you can use the this keyword to make a reference to the current object. Why is this useful? Because it helps distinguish between instance variables, your attributes, and the parameters. or local variables when they have the same name. So I'm going to call this make here and make here. If I want them to be make equal to make, that looks confusing. So we're actually going to use the this keyword. And this is going to allow me to match the parameter name to the attribute name. So you can use this keyword to make a reference to the current object. That's what this is saying. It's saying, hey, this object's make, set it to the make parameter. This object's mileage, set it to the mileage parameter. So it makes it more readable, right? So that you can distinguish between the attributes and the parameters. Remember, another word for attributes is instance variables. When we match the names by convention, we match the names by convention to keep the code clean and consistent, and the this keyword makes it easier to read. Otherwise, it would just say make equal make, which is actually wrong. You do need the this keyword in there.